Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Lawsplaining the Interwebs. I am your host, Nick Rekieta of Rekieta Law, a small law firm in central Minnesota. How are you doing tonight, chat? Why is my chair so low? All right. This is why everyone thinks I'm short. It's because my chair is like through the floor. We're a negative elevation of chairs. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. All right, guys. So welcome to the show. Tonight we have a variety show of sorts. We've got some various things to cover. We've got this chick with the puffed up lips. The puffed up lips and the puffed up other things. She is in a little bit of trouble. Gamers rise up. She is in some trouble and the gamers will have to help her. I don't know if there's any helping her. There's all sorts of weird stuff going on right now in the world of internet dramatisms. I don't know. I don't know what to do. Anyway, so we're going to talk a little bit about her issues. I talked about them on the kill stream the other day. I'm sure you guys have been seeing a little bit of a buzz about it. We're going to talk about the Green New Deal. The Green New Deal from Ocasio-Cortez, which is just great. We'll talk about that just a bit. Just a tad. We will also talk a little bit about abortion. The Supreme Court hath spaketh about some abortion lately. And I mean, maybe they should get aborted. So we'll talk a little bit about that. This is not going to be like expounding on the philosophical definitions of abortion or anything like that. But we will definitely talk a little bit about it as we go through. And then I also have a bedtime story for you. It is a bedtime story on why we don't rely on the police to protect us. Why you don't rely on the police to protect you. It is not a slam on police. It is a cautionary tale. I've mentioned it the past couple times, I mentioned it a couple times in the past few weeks on streams, very tangentially, because it seems to crop up every now and then. And so I wanted to read you the story. I've done this video. I've actually done the video of this before. YouTube demonetized it, which I thought was unfair. I thought that was unfair, but they did demonetize it. So I will bring you that story live, because I don't think I did it live before. Let me zoom in on this lovely lady. Why do they all do people like this look? The lips? Like, do people like that? I don't get down like that. I don't know what's up with that whole thing. So yeah, I already started the real Lady Rackets. I just ran downstairs and started. What do you want? What do you need? What do you want? So before I do that, I've been neglecting doing something. I've gotten some gifts. I've gotten a couple gifts, and I want to acknowledge the gifts so that Russell Greer can sue me when I don't acknowledge whatever gift he decides to eventually send me. No, I'm just kidding. I've gotten some gifts, and I want to do that real quick. This is going to be a really laid back and chilled out stream, guys. So if you're looking for like a hard-hitting topic tonight, I mean, we're going to make fun of some people, but 2 nights of reading through Gavin's SPLC lawsuit has kind of worn down the specific topic focus that I had. I'm also trying to arrange some other shows that I think you guys will be really, really interested in seeing. So just bear with me. Just bear with me on that as we go through. So the first thing. Oh, this is from Rip Dove, my thumbnail artist. Rip Dove. He got me a pack of this ramen, and I don't know if I can show you very well. Let's see. The ramen is donut shaped, so you put an egg in the donut, and it poaches the egg while the ramen cooks. So I'm a big fan of eating ramen, especially late night ramen. Thank you, Rip Dove, for that, buddy. I appreciate it. The next thing is, okay, I can't read this guy's name. I can't read this guy's name online. Oh, I'm sorry, Lady Rackets. I said goodnight to you earlier. Good night. I love you. I didn't put the baby in bed. Did you need me to? That'd be weird. I've kind of started a show. So I can't. Thanks DJD for linking me and bringing the anime subs over. I appreciate it. We're gonna have more and more anime content on this channel too. I'm currently watching Baki with the Real Lady Rackets, and we may have a Baki review stream at some point with some people. So here's the thing. I can't, when I say I can't read this person's name, it's I have the ability and the capability to read the person's name, and but he's asked me not to. Please don't say my name in a video. I'm the only person with this name, so it would be tough to stay private that way, because he's a PhD candidate at a major institution, a very big institution. Congrats, by the way. You know who you are out there, my friend. He's a PhD candidate, and he's worried that merely mentioning his name on my stream would bring him some ire from his classmates or from his faculty, stuff like that. So I will of course honor his request. I won't say his name. I deeply appreciate the letter, and he also sent me this book, Speak Freely, by Keith Whittington. Why Universities Must Defend Free Speech. I'll be reading it soon. Maybe I can do a book review on it or something when I get through it. But I really do appreciate it. I appreciate anybody who's in support of free speech, of course. And yes, free speech includes hate speech. Free speech includes uncomfortable speech. So, yes, Conic40 over on Stream Me. Yes, it does. It does need updating. Let me see if I can do it on the fly. I apologize. Here we go. We'll see if we can get that updated live. We're doing it live. I don't know if it'll let me, but we're gonna try. We're gonna try. All right, it's updated. So hopefully, hey, it fixed it. It fixed it. Okay, so there's that. All right, I've got two more gifts. To thank people for. So this is from Shami Stovall. Shami Stovall is the author of this book. Shami Stovall, I hope I'm saying that name right. I went to Stovall Elementary for 3rd and part of 4th grade in Houston, Texas. So cool. We're friends now, automatically. No, I'm joking. I'm hoping I'm saying that name right. Shami is also an attorney. But clearly a science fiction author as well. Congrats on having this book published, and I can't wait to read it. So thank you very much for that. Yeah, and mentions that happy I'm into 40K in the letter, which I am. And I just finished reading Lords of Silence. this lovely book. Just finished reading Lords of Silence. Very good. If you're into 40K, strong recommend. Vorks is a good character. And the final gift, sorry, I'm getting sidetracked. This is from, I won't say last names, this is from Benjamin. Thank you, Benjamin, for some Basil Hayden's rye whiskey. If I remember right, several streams ago, Ben asked if he could buy me a bottle of whiskey, what would I like? And I said Basil Hayden's rye, and here it is. Thank you. I've always wanted to try it, and I think I will get it open and try it tonight. I really appreciate it. Okay. Mithrin Emrys says, sadly, the guy worried about you saying his name is right. Universities have become Oceana. No wrong think allowed. Welcome to 1984. And yes, everything is wrong think all over the place. And it's truly a disaster. It's a disaster. The culture war is just vile and foul, and it's a never-ending spree of having to watch what you say and who you are. And Lady Rackets a little while back said I did not say goodnight to her. I apologize. I thought I did. I must have said goodnight to one of the kids. I'm sorry. Anyway, it's a disgusting place where people who disagree over an opinion, or even if they hate an opinion, like that's no longer good enough. Now they have to come after you. They have to make sure that you don't get the chance to talk about anything. You don't have the right to make money. You don't have the right to speak. You don't have the right really to live if you disagree with them. So that's how it goes. That's how it goes. Landon says, I've got some gifts for you. Where do we send? All non-hentai can go to P.O. Box 97 in Spicer, Minnesota. That is my business address. You're welcome to send it there. Thank you. Thank you. But, yeah, it's a cesspool. It's a cesspool out there, folks. Folks! Oh my goodness. So guys, I've spent the last 2 days making fun of Gavin McInnes's lawsuit against the SPLC. And here today, because I merely said, you know, the Proud Boys aren't actually white supremacists because they don't like white supremacy or ethno-nationalism. Like, make fun of them for literally anything else. Make fun of them for being new Puritans or whatever you want. But don't call them racist because it's lazy, because that's the one thing that they overtly are not. Like, they're not that. You could go with like Islamophobic, I guess. You could go with illegal immigrant. You could go with, I don't know, you could go with a lot of different things to pick on the Proud Boys for, but they went with racist, which is just weird. Because yeah, I don't know. I don't understand it. It's like your brain is so broken on this same track that in light of plenty of things to disagree with someone on, you have to pick the thing that you don't disagree with them on. So, anyway, just a weird place. Okay. That's pretty good. It's got a little, got some, how do I describe it? It's like gin in a way. When you drink gin, it kind of takes air out of your mouth. I got that on the first sip here. Let me try one more. Sorry. Okay, I apologize for that indulgent sip. I wanted to get a good review. I like this. It's rye. It's not very sweet. The bourbon, Basil Hayden's bourbon, has a nice sweetness to it. This does not, which is fine. It's not sweet at all. The finish is very smooth. The breathe out that follows is weird. I can't put my finger on it. It's almost like it's a very muted and subtle breathe. A lot of times you get a different character of the whiskey as you breathe back out. And I'm not getting much of anything. So that's cool. I don't know. It's good. I like it. I'm the worst whiskey reviewer. I'm sorry. Okay. Where were we going? Oh, yes. Let's start talking about the stuff that I said I was going to talk about. That seems like a good plan. Yeah, going with racist isn't weird. It's blatantly lazy thinking. Yeah, I know. And I don't get it. Why? Why can't they? Why can't they get past that? Landon Magan James says, I've got a boatload of Mecha DVDs I bought for you on the way. Ones I don't think you've seen. Sure, you don't have time to watch them, but when you do, I hope you enjoy. These would be your taste. Thanks, buddy. Thank you. I will find time to watch them. All right. Okay, so Mercedes Carrera. Let's read the original story real quick, and then there's an update to the story that came out like today. Adult actress Mercedes Carrera, real name Melinda Smith, 35, and her boyfriend Jason Whitney, 43, were arrested and charged with 8 counts each of sexually abusing a child under the age of 10. Now, guys, these are all under the same statute. It is California Penal Code 288.3, I think. Don't quote me. Don't at me. Might be 288.1. A and B. Now, one of the 8 counts is A. That count carries a sentence of 25 years to life. That is the actual... Oh boy. That is the actual genital sexual contact with a minor under the age of 10 years old. The 7 other counts are non-genital to genital contact with a child under the age of 10 years old, either involving a mouth or fingers or some foreign object. Those counts carry 15 years to life, I believe, if I remember right. But it's basically a minimum of 25 years on the one count, a minimum of 15 on the other. Crone Dome, yes, I do have the Stream Me chat visible. But it's not visible on the stream, but it's visible to me. And then there is one count in addition to the sexual counts of possession of a controlled substance and a firearm, which the controlled substance is methamphetamines. That was located when the house was searched. Zephael, the reason there are the multiple counts is that from best I can figure, the child provided testimony to the police about what was done to the child, and that child then alleges, we'll say, 8 different specific things where a charge could occur. Excuse me. And I mean, I hate talking about this stuff because it forces us to go kind of into what that looks like, but if you could just imagine that if there are 8 charges, that there are 8 specific sexual acts that they believe they have the probable cause to charge with. It doesn't mean they have enough evidence to get a conviction at this point, but it does mean that they have probable cause to charge in their opinion. But anyway, so the child, for whatever reason, reported this to the police. I'm going to read the statement and you'll understand why I say for whatever reason. Reported this to the police, and the police did a search of the house, found, well, it might say, oh, here we go. Detectives from the Rancho Cucamonga Police Department revealed that the girl was abused over a 4-month period, which they learned of on January 31st. Deputies said in a statement, quote, "The sexual abuse consisted of inappropriate touching, oral copulation, and digital penetration." That means fingers, not like digital, like video, not like a video game, which occurred over the 4 months. A search warrant of Smith and Whitney's home uncovered, quote, "a large amount of evidence corroborating the victim's statement." According to the press release from detectives, they also found 2 handguns and methamphetamine. Both Whitney and Smith have been denied bail and entered not guilty pleas when they appeared in court on Wednesday, February 6th. They're due back in court on February 14th for a preliminary hearing. So there we go. There we go. Here's her updated statement. This is updated today. Adult star Mercedes Carerra, real name Melinda Smith, has been accused, along with her boyfriend Jason Whitney, of molesting a 9-year-old girl. Carerra issued a statement on the matter where she called the allegations false and believes this ordeal is an effort to keep her from her daughter, who is the 9-year-old girl in question. So her statement is, "Last week, my husband and I were arrested on charges of molesting my 9-year-old daughter. The absolute worst crime I can imagine." It's important to note that in 2015, Mercedes Carerra did tweet out that she believed that child molesters deserved summary executions to remove them from the gene pool. So, the worst crime I can imagine. The charges were filed by her father, my ex-partner, a fundamentalist Christian. "He is trying to take custody of our child from me. Charges are absolutely false and horrifying, and a last-ditch effort to keep me from contact with my daughter for the rest of my life." Now, this stuff does happen. This stuff does happen, and it is really awful. I am so worried for her. Her life is shattered. Life will never be the same for any of us. We are struggling to make sense of this nightmare. This is a no-bail offense, so we are stuck in jail until we are cleared. We are facing decades in prison and do not even have money for a lawyer. We do not know what to do, but I ask that you all know me for who I am and know that neither I nor my husband would ever do anything like this to any child, let alone my beloved daughter. So there is the statement. I want to, give me a second. I want to read. There's actually a, I'll find it real quick. There's the actual, whatchamacallit. My brain is broken. The police report. The police report from the county. Where is it? Is it in here? No. Rancho Cucamonga. I think it's in here. Hold on. I'm trying to pull it up here, guys. I want to make sure. I want to make sure we get it. Second. If I can't find it really soon, I'm not gonna dig. I swear, I just read this thing. How annoying. Okay, the reason I wanted to bring it up is that it says in the police report, like she says these charges were brought by her. Okay, here we go. Here we go. I've got the update. So this is, I'll bring this over. This is what I was looking for. 1 second. I'll blow this up. This is the police narrative. Look at that mugshot. Woof. Okay. Incident. PC. This is Penal Code 288.7. Oh, I was wrong. Sexual acts of a child under 10 years old. And then HS 11370.1. Possession of controlled substance while armed with a handgun. Okay. So here's the... Oh, good. Here's the update. Through further investigation, detectives have learned that Jason Whitney uses the name Jay Allen on a social media platform. However, he is better known in the adult film industry as Damon Sins. There you go. And for what it's worth, there is a you know, Mercedes tweeted out a picture of her in front of a Baphomet thing. So people are kind of running wild with that one. Here's what we've got. I want to get the police narrative in there. On Thursday, January 31st, 2019, deputies were notified of sexual acts against a minor female victim which occurred in the city of Rancho Cucamonga. Detectives assumed the investigation and conducted an extensive interview with a minor female victim. Detectives learned she was sexually abused several times by Melinda Smith and Jason Whitney. The sexual abuse consisted of inappropriate touching, oral copulation, digital penetration, which occurred over 4 months. That means that one of these charges, the 25-year plus one, is going to go. Because that's just, according to what they say in this police report, they won't have cause to maintain that charge. Through investigation, it was determined that Smith was an actress who frequently performed in pornographic videos. It was determined that Whitney worked as a producer and director of various types of pornographic movies, web shows, and award shows in the adult film industry. On Friday, February 1st, detectives served a search warrant at their residence and contacted Melinda Smith and Jason Whitney in the home. A search of the residence was conducted and detectives located a large amount of evidence corroborating the victim's statement. Additionally, detectives located methamphetamine and 2 loaded handguns in the home. Detectives also learned the 2 suspects had their bedroom set up where they could film and record various pornographic videos and web shows. Whitney and Smith were detained and transported to the Rancho Cucamonga station for interviews. At the conclusion of the interviews, both suspects were arrested and booked into the West Valley Detention Center on various charges of sexual acts against a child. On Thursday, February 5th, the case was presented. Tuesday, February 5th, the case was presented to the San Bernardino County District Attorney's Office in Rancho Cucamonga for review. After their review, the DA's office formally charged each suspect with 8 counts of PC 288.7, sexual acts of the child, and 1 count of HS 11370.1, controlled substance while armed with a handgun. Both were denied bail and remain in custody. Both suspects are scheduled to be arraigned on the above charges. They've pled not guilty. That's not in here, but they have. Detectives believe there may be additional victims and are releasing the booking photos of each suspect. If you have any information regarding this case, urge to contact the Police Detective Bureau. The reason I wanted to point that out there, she says these charges were brought by her husband, which may be true. However, the arrest is based on this interview, an extensive interview with a minor female victim. And so, I mean, that's gonna be rough. That's gonna be rough. Do you disavow rape? I mean, yeah, I think so. Rape is bad optics. Rape is bad optics. Mithrin Emrys says, remember, anti-illegal immigrant now automatically means racist, sexist, homophobic. As always, the left engages in projection. They love plantations. Excitable Boy says, you have a falling out with your barber buddy? No. No. He did a good job. You leave him alone. He's my friend. Dick Finger says, I didn't know lipstick was sold in whore red. Apparently it is. And Zephael says, TY, do counts stack in sentencing or just guilty? It depends on the rules of the jurisdiction. It depends on the types of charges. Some of them can run concurrently, others stack. It's I don't know enough about the California Penal Code to tell you if these would run concurrently or if they would stack or not. So there you go. Long and short, you don't want to be in this position. Guilty or innocent, they're in a bad spot. They've got a little girl who we know now to be the daughter because Mercedes has admitted that it's her daughter, who's familiar with the house. The little girl's going to be very good at explaining what's in the house. They found meth and guns in the house. Those things are going to be meth and guns, along with allegations of child abuse. Yeah, I don't want. I wouldn't want to. I wouldn't want to be defending that case. But we'll have to see. We'll have to see how it goes. Captain Weeb 56 says, "How's it going, Nick? Hope all's been well, mate. Things are going pretty well. Pretty well. Although I have failed in my husbandly duties tonight to say goodnight to Lady Rackets properly, and I feel bad for that." Okay. All right. So that's the Mercedes Carrera story. I wanted to get that update out there because I know some people have talked about it, but she has put out her statement. It's important to know this statement exists. Someday, probably sooner rather than later, I've got a guy who works as a county social worker, child protective services worker, and hopefully he will come on the stream and tell us some horror stories about CPS. But it's always hard when police are interviewing a 9-year-old child, because you never know what was said, you never know who was present, you never know if this is during a custody dispute, if the dad has coached the little girl to say things. And I mean, if that's the case, then the dad should be sunset, man. Like that type of stuff is horrible. Horrible. Guys, I've you keep commenting on my haircut. Every time I go get a haircut for the past year now, I've gotten a fade. So that's why I like it. Keeps me cool. I'm allergic to being hot, like I said. All right, moving right along to the next subject. We have the Green New Deal from everyone's favorite congressman, Miss Ocasio-Cortez. She has produced the Green New Deal. Now, I don't know. I haven't compared them yet. This is the Green Party, and they have a Green New Deal. And I don't think it's the same as her Green New Deal. And when I saw her statement on it, she's like, we got to get this thing introduced because we don't want someone else to take it. And I'm pretty sure she took the Green New Deal from them. SJ Jar Jar Binks says, real men drink pure absinthe, up to the challenge. Well, I mean, if you can find me some, sure. Congresswoman. Did I not say that? It says on here, Ms. Ocasio-Cortez. So, don't at me. Because that's why. Right there. Miss Ocasio-Cortez. See if I can blow this up a little more. Whoa! That's terrible. Stupid document cloud. Tillip says, hashtag build the train. There you go. We're going to have trains over the ocean. Trains over the ocean. Okay, so Congresswoman Ms. Ocasio-Cortez, let's see what she's got. Let's read through this. Resolution recognizing the duty of the federal government to create a Green New Deal. I mean, is there a duty of the federal government to create a Green New Deal? No. New Deal was largely questionable on constitutional grounds. In fact, a lot of the New Deal was getting struck down until FDR decided not to stand up and to appoint he threatened to appoint a bunch of justices to stack the Supreme Court. Oh my gosh. Congresswoman. Didn't I say that? Yeah, did you just assume her gender, Tess? SJ Jar Jar Binks says, she's no woman. I've seen her shave her beard. Okay, so whereas the October 2018 report entitled Special Report on Global Warming of 1.5 degrees Celsius by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change and the November 2018 Fourth National Climate Assessment Report found that 1. Human activity is the dominant cause of observed climate change over the past century. 2, a changing climate is causing sea levels to rise, and an increase in wildfires, severe storms, droughts, and other extreme weather events that threaten human life. There's no possible other explanations for any of this. Healthy communities and critical infrastructure. 3, global warming at or above 2 degrees Celsius beyond pre-industrialized levels will cause mass migration from the regions most affected by climate change. More than $500 billion in lost annual economic output in the United States by the year 2100. I mean, there's not going to be anybody around to test it, is there? Wildfires that by 2050 will annually burn at least twice as much forest area in the western United States than was typically burned by wildfires in the years preceding 2019. You know, it can't. Like, they can't. Because they'll run out of fuel eventually. There are ways to remove the fuel from the forest. It's the underbrush, the fallen down dead stuff that dries out. Okay, a loss of more than 99% of all coral reefs on Earth. More than 350 million more people to be exposed globally to deadly heat stress by 2050. And a risk of damage to $1 trillion of public infrastructure and coastal real estate in the United States. And global temperatures must be kept below 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrialized levels to avoid the most severe impacts of a changing climate, because they've got it figured out. They've got it figured out. A global reduction in greenhouse gas emissions from human sources of 40 to 60% from 2010 levels by 2030, and net zero emissions by 2050. There we go. SJ Jar Jar Binks says, simple explanation, Nick, blame period emoji. Oh, come on. Whereas, because the United States has historically been responsible for a disproportionate amount of greenhouse gas emissions, having emitted 20% of global greenhouse gas emissions through 2014, and as a high-tech technological capacity, the United States must take a leading role in reducing emissions through economic transformation. Mithrin Emrys says, Congress critter ojos locos, idiotic cortex, wants us to simultaneously live in the Jetsons and the 1700s. Wait, and Blau says, so is there anything in this that's going to force the Chinese and Indians to stop producing pollution? Well, no. Of course not. Of course not. Why don't I mean, I guess we're just going to have to do a war with China and India to get them to stop, right? That's the only way. Because let me just tell you, that's the only way. It's the only way to achieve this goal. You cannot convince China and India to just stop industrializing. What about their large segments of Africa and Southeast Asia that have not had a proper industrial revolution? You're going to deny it? You're going to have them skip it? You think that's going to work? I mean, it doesn't really work that way. Here we go. Whereas the United States is currently experiencing several related crises, with life expectancy declining while basic needs such as clean air, clean water, health, food, and adequate health care, housing, transportation, and education are inaccessible to a significant portion of the United States population. Wait a minute. Life expectancy US. I mean, is it declining? Is there any evidence for that decline? We're up since 1970. According to my brief Google search, U.S. life expectancy drops in 2017 due to drug overdoses and suicides. There you go. So is it greenhouse gases or is it opium? Is it greenhouse gases or is it opium? Next, we've got SJ Jar Jar Binks says, it's time to troll. Now where's our president? Okay. So, yeah, we have adequate, apparently it's lack of clean air, which our air is cleaner than it's been in the past 40 years. Lack of clean water. Outside of Flint, water's cleaner than it's been the last 40 years. We have the healthiest food stocks ever in history. Adequate health care. Well, I don't know. You guys passed a bill to make that happen, and it just didn't work. It's almost like there was a giant group of people telling you it wouldn't work, and then it didn't. Transportation. You're right. The U.S. has a real transportation problem. And education. Never seen a public school in my life. Wow. Number 2. A 4-decade trend of economic stagnation. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. I'm not even 4 decades old. This chick's like 2.25 decades old. Was she like, she's 20, 25, 26, 20, she's 27. I don't know. I don't know how old she is. God, I gotta look all this stupid stuff up. Ocasio-Cortez. 29. 29. I apologize. She's not even 3 decades old. She's talking about 4 decades of economic stagnation. Like, this is flat out incorrect. I remember the 80s. I remember 2008. I remember 1999. I remember those crashes in the 90s. We do not have economic stagnation in any way. Deindustrialization. You're talking about reducing greenhouse gases, you dummy. Of course you cannot have industrialization without pollution. At this point in our technological spectra, you're stuck with polluting. You can't just decide to industrialize without the output of industrialization. That's what comes with it. And anti-labor practices. Not enough unions, y'all, has led to hourly wages overall stagnating since the 70s despite increased worker productivity. Yeah, remember back in 1970 when the minimum wage was $9 an hour? Let's see. Minimum wage, 1975. $2 an hour. No, $2.10. $2.10 an hour in 1975. Yeah, we've got definitely got wage stagnation there. That's just the minimum wage. I don't even know what the average household income is. Astronomically higher than that. The 3rd worst level of socioeconomic mobility in the developed world before the Great Recession. Sure. The erosion of the earning and bargaining power of workers in the United States. Right, because we don't have record levels of home ownership and access to things like the internet and all sorts of amenities that would be considered luxuries in most nations. The greatest, here we go. Inadequate resources for public sector workers to confront the challenges of climate change at local, state, and federal levels. The greatest income inequality since the 1920s, with the top 1% of earners accruing 91% of gains in the first few years of economic recovery after the Great Recession. That's because they lost the most money. The average worker was not heavily leveraged in investment markets when the market tanked. So when the market rebounds, the people who are heavily leveraged in economic markets are going to experience an increased boom because their income is based on investment return, not based on literal labor. Literal laborers largely didn't have the biggest earnings increases because their earnings were tied to the same thing they were tied to prior to the recession. I don't want to adjust for inflation. Someone else wants to adjust for inflation, please do so. But if you're going to try and argue with me that in the 1970s you have greater access to the economic benefits than you do today, I mean, you've got to overcome things like the access of television, cable, improved healthcare, cell phones. The ability to communicate and travel is greater now than literally ever. I get it. You might have less disposable income adjusted for inflation, but what else are you gaining? Cars didn't have air conditioning in the 70s as a standard. You had to buy it extra. Now they largely do. You've got automatic transmissions. You've got highway fatalities, I think, declining if we adjust for population growth. We've got all sorts of measures that change. Like, you can't... Yes, if you want me to adjust for inflation, I can, but then we have to talk about everything else that inflation has bought. The variety of food. Go to your grocery store today and go in 1985. It's ridiculous, the difference. Absolutely crazy. Okay, a large racial wealth divide, amounting to a difference of 20 times more wealth between the average white family and the average black family, which I think is actually decreasing, which is why they didn't say it's the largest. It's just large. Well, yes, we went from owning people of a certain race to not owning them. It takes a long time for the wealth disparity to catch up. Like, gender earning, black family. Like, again, policies that have absolutely destroyed the black family. Gender earnings gap that results in women earning approximately 80% as much as men at the median, but not in job-to-job comparisons where women out-earn men at the same job and same hours of work. On average, I think it's a 6% wage gap the other direction. This is just nonsense. Whereas climate change, pollution, and environmental destruction have exacerbated systemic, racial, regional, social, environmental, and economic injustices, referred to in this preamble as systemic injustices, by disproportionately affecting indigenous communities, communities of color, migrant communities, deindustrialized communities, depopulated rural communities, the poor, low-income workers, women, the elderly, the unhoused, people with the unhoused. That's such a weird phrase. The unhoused means it's the responsibility of others to house them. Which, I mean, you might think that it's your responsibility to help the homeless, for sure. But the unhoused implies that they should be housed by default, which is, again, weird. People with disabilities and youth, referred to in this preamble as frontline and vulnerable communities. Whereas climate change constitutes a direct threat to the national security of the United States, one, by impacting the economic, environmental, and social stability of countries and communities around the world, and by acting as a threat multiplier. This is all, no, guys, I don't, let's see. Nexus, the Goi, I don't know. Over on Stream Me. I see you, buddy. I'm just not reading any chat right now. I don't shadow ban anyone. Can you sue Ralph for shadow banning you for posting Gunt memes on a free speech charge? I don't think so. Ralph isn't the government. Or is he? Controlled oppositions? No, I don't shadow ban people. All right. Whereas the federal government led mobilizations during World War II and the New Deal created the greatest middle class that the United States has ever seen. Yeah. I mean, war does that. War does that to economies. You have a unifying purpose. You have a nationally approved war. You have an overwhelming majority of the country agreeing on things. Yeah, you saw a massive economic increase. You're also coming off of 2 decades of stagnation following the crash in 1929, a depression that lasted throughout the war, and then a bunch of people coming home and a bunch of money ready to go to work. I mean, you're going to give that to the government-led mobilizations? Okay. But many members of frontline and vulnerable communities were excluded from many of the economic and societal benefits of those mobilizations. That's because the collectivists didn't like people of certain races. Like, they didn't like Asians or black people. Good job, FDR. Whereas the House of Representatives recognizes that a new national social, industrial, and economic mobilization on a scale not seen since World War II and the New Deal is a historic opportunity to create millions of good, high-wage jobs in the United States. Doing what? Doing what? You don't have a decade of wartime production being shifted to consumer goods that stagnated for a decade. You don't have it. You don't have a massive amount of men coming home and needing houses, because when they left, they were still in their parents' house. You don't have that anymore. You can't just manufacture the conditions of post-World War II. Okay, to provide unprecedented levels of prosperity and economic security for all people of the United States, and to counteract systemic injustices, now therefore be it resolved that it is the sense of the House of Representatives that, 1. So that was all preamble. Now's the resolution. This is Congress. This is Congress resolving this. It is the duty of the federal government to create a Green New Deal to achieve net zero greenhouse gas emissions through a fair and just transition for all communities and workers, to create millions of good, high-wage jobs and ensure prosperity and economic security for all people of the United States, to invest in the infrastructure and industry of the United States to sustainably meet the challenges of the 21st century, to secure for all people of the United States for generations to come clean air and water, climate and community resiliency, healthy food, access to nature, and a sustainable environment. The original New Deal actually tried this stuff, and it was struck down because it's not possible. You can't promise these things. Ask South Africa. You can't have a constitution of promises. They don't work because the government fails. Ask the Soviet Union. Let's see. OSK, 0SK, or OSK, I don't know. In Australia, the Greenies implement laws to stop preventative backburning and then blame the huge forest fires for the greenhouse gases. Yeah, it's not any different here. It's not any different here. The fact that we've stopped any clearing of these wildfire-prone forests, we don't allow the burning of the underbrush. We don't allow natural fires to persist. We don't allow controlled burns or anything like that. And then what do we get? We get massive wildfires that are out of control when someone leaves a campfire on a windy day. SJ Jar Jar Binks says, we tried to warn you. She batched crazy Scientology. Yes. Carlos Pena says, anyone who pushes carbon reduction legislation and doesn't support nuclear power is incredibly naive or a con artist looking for tax bucks. Yep, we're going to get to that eventually. And Yazoo Pacific donated but did not leave a message. Thank you very much, Yazoo. I appreciate it very, very much. Yeah, you're right, VG. You can promise these things, you just can't deliver on it. That's correct. I think if you're talking to me, yeah, you can't deliver on it. Okay, so access to, here's what the promises are. clean air and water, climate and community resiliency, healthy food, access to nature, and a sustainable environment. And so how are you going to promise healthy food to people? Like, what if they want to buy something else? Or what if they don't have the money for it? You're promising it from the government. You're going to put it in there. You're going to come cook it for them? What if they don't want to cook? To promote justice and equality by stopping current, preventing future, and repairing historic oppression of indigenous communities, communities of color, migrant communities, deindustrialized communities, depopulated rural communities, the poor, low-income workers, women, the elderly, the unhoused, people with disabilities, and youth, referred to in this resolution as frontline and vulnerable communities. Okay, questions. Do you want the indigenous communities to integrate and drop their treaty-provided rights? That's the question. Are they sovereign nations or are they part of America? And whichever one they choose, I don't really care. But you can't consider indigenous communities to be integrated into the U.S., but then separate. We ruled a long time ago that separate but equal is never equal. Even if you try, it's not. So how do we resolve this with indigenous communities? We can't have them be separate entities within the sovereign borders of the United States if we want them treated equally. We learned this in the 60s. What about depopulated rural communities? Are you honestly going to say, Ocasio-Cortez of New York City, that you are for rural communities repopulating? I mean, maybe she is, but typically speaking, Democrat policies favor urbanization because rural communities increase travel lines, increase travel times, put people at higher risk when they don't have adequate transportation, make public transportation less viable, make utilities more expensive, make mass communication lines more expensive, make things like internet and television harder to deliver, make school systems more problematic. All of these things are problems according to traditional Democrat values. How are you going to address this? You're going to have to urbanize them to implement these policies. The goals described in subparagraphs A through E of paragraph 1, referred to in this resolution as the Green New Deal goals, should be accomplished through a 10-year national mobilization, referred to in this resolution as the Green New Deal mobilization, that will require the following goals and projects. 10 years, y'all. 10 years. Here we go. Here we go. Building resiliency against climate change-related disasters such as extreme weather, including by leveraging funding and providing investments for community-defined projects and strategies. So that paragraph said nothing. Repairing and upgrading the infrastructure in the United States, including by eliminating pollution and greenhouse gas emissions as much as technologically feasible. Well, how much is that? Technically, we're doing that. Like, that's the ironic part. If you're saying, well, it's got to be as much as technologically feasible. Well, right now we're at maximum technological feasibility. By necessity of the term, we're always there. I mean, maybe you can improve it in the future and over time. And if you do that, then you're there. You've arrived at technological feasibility when the cost versus benefit lines meet. It's economic equilibrium. It's basic macroeconomics, you dummy. I know you didn't take it, but economic equilibrium happens all the time. And that is the limit of technological feasibility. Otherwise, you run out, you skew the graph outside of where technologically feasible meets economically viable, and it's no longer feasible because you can't pay for it. Next, by guaranteeing universal access to clean water. Why haven't you fixed Flint? Why haven't you fixed Flint, Michigan yet? You can't fix a town. How are you going to fix a nation? How are you going to guarantee universal access to clean water? What are you going to do with riparian rights? How are you going to change the access? Are you going to tell the almond farmers who've been working on securing those access to clean water, are you going to tell them too bad because the downstreamers want it now and we've guaranteed universal access to clean water? How are you going to do that? Are you going to force dredge exit tributaries? I guess it's not tributaries. Are you going to force dredge exit streams and ditches to reroute water lines to people who don't have access to clean water? What are you going to do? How do you do it? By reducing the risks posed by flooding and other climate impacts. Oh, good. By ensuring that any infrastructure bill considered by Congress addresses climate change. Can you address it by saying that this is absurd? Meeting 100% of the power demand in the United States through clean, renewable, and zero-emission energy sources, including not nuclear. Pay attention, not nuclear. The only way you could actually meet the needs of the United States with a zero-emission energy source is nuclear. It's the only way. And here's what... By dramatically expanding and upgrading existing renewable power sources, like nuclear, right? And by deploying new capacity. Oh, we're going to have to get to how they actually do it in a little bit, I'm guessing. Next, deploying or upgrading to building or upgrading to energy efficient, distributed, and smart power grids, and working to ensure affordable access to electricity. Smart power grids can eat all of the bullets for all I care. Smart power grids shut off my air conditioner when it's hot. No thank you. No thank you. If you want smart power grids, start building micro nuclear power plants everywhere with nuclear cores that are too small to power down or too small to melt down, nuclear cores that are contained, fully contained units that can power hundreds of thousands of homes with a single unit. We could do this. We actually have this technology. We could decentralize the power grid really easily that way, but you're opposed to nuclear technology because smart, right? Upgrading all existing buildings in the United States. Let's just take a moment. Upgrading all existing buildings in the United States and building new buildings to achieve maximal energy efficiency, water efficiency, safety, affordability, comfort, and durability, including through electrification. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Number of homes in U.S. There are 126.22 million households. That's households. No. How many houses are there? How do we even come up with the number? Number of buildings in U.S.? We'll try that one. Commercial building stock estimates that there were 5.6 million commercial buildings in the United States in 2012. Okay. There you go. That's just commercial buildings. That's not including industrial buildings. That's not including residential buildings. I mean, what are we talking about here? What are we talking about? I don't know about you guys, but upgrading buildings where I live costs a lot of money. Like just changing the windows is tens of thousands of dollars for maximal energy efficiency. I mean, you want to throw some cheap windows up, you can call Window World, right? Simply the best for less. $200 windows? Sure. Yeah. They're not blocking out anything. They're not maximal energy efficiency. So maximal energy efficiency on, well, to give you an idea, I did one room of my old house. I did new maximum energy efficiency windows in one room, and there weren't a lot. We're talking 5 windows was over $8,000, right? Like, what are we talking about here? You're talking in the trillions of dollars to do this. This is 75 million single family homes in the US. So just take 75 million, calc, 25, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, times, I don't know, 10,000. That's $750 billion on windows. Just one room, 2 rooms of windows. There you go. Like that's just the windows. That's not upgrading the furnaces, because you're going to have maximal energy efficiency furnaces. That's $20,000, $30,000. What about water efficiency? So water heaters and water softeners have to be maximally efficient. You've got another 10 grand, 5 maybe. You've got to redo the roofs. You're going to have to add solar panels to every one of them as well. That's a $30,000 expense. This is insanity. You're talking about $100,000 of upgrades on your average single family home to start to reach maximal efficiency. All right, spurring massive growth in clean manufacturing in the United States and removing pollution and greenhouse gas emissions from manufacturing and industry as much as is technologically feasible. Lady, the way you remove pollution and greenhouse gases from the end product is actually you kind of front load it. You front load it in the manufacturing process. This is the problem with hybrid vehicles, for example. The pollution to generate the hybrid car battery is greater than the maximum pollution output of a standard carbon dioxide spewing combustion engine. That's just how it goes. It's actually a net larger detriment in the long run. Now, the hopes is through, minimization, industrialization, maximization of efficiency that will reduce some of that, but it's not, I don't think it's even there yet. You front load the pollution. Waste has to occur. It just does. It's part of the production process. We don't use all of the materials that occur when we make things. Including by expanding renewable energy manufacturing. Literally, the most environmentally damaging production there is, I believe, is solar panels. They're horrifically bad for the environment. And investing in existing manufacturing and energy industry. If only anybody was existing in manufacturing and industry right now. If only anybody was doing that. Let's see. Siren Jag says, access to nature. Does she think that people are incapable of going outside? Read the words going outside again and sound really exasperated with how dumb she is. Okay, here. Does she think that people are incapable of going outside? That's for you, buddy. SJ Jar Jar Binks says, Nick Cortez, get into your secret stash again? Nope. Rick Nikita says, this sounds like magic. Nixx says, anyone who criticizes Trump's wall and stands behind any of this garbage is delusional. Just wait until the spending part. Yeah, we're going to get there. Paul Godin says, with that amount of money, we could build one heck of a wall with windows. Seth says, even just corporate buildings, how, with what money? Well, Seth, I'm here to tell you, with yours. With your money. WWG Marcus, what is false? What is false? What is false, buddy? Go ahead and tell me. You could super chat if you really want me to see you, and I would see you faster. But what do you think is false? Are you saying that manufacturing solar panels is not horrifically polluting the environment? I'm curious. Working collaboratively with farmers and ranchers in the United States to eliminate pollution and greenhouse gas emissions from the agricultural sector as much as is technologically feasible. Including by supporting family farming. Like, don't you want to maximize efficiency and minimize waste? Technically, not that I'm in support of it, but isn't corporate farming much more efficient than family farming? I mean, generally, yes. Yes. By investing in sustainable farming and land use practices that increase soil health. I mean, anyone who thinks we're not doing this is nuts. Live in a rural community, and they throw government money at this. They just dump government money into farmland. Minnesota will pay you to never farm again. To make sure, like, the most sustainable land use practices, they'll just pay forever for potential farmland to sit. They'll pay for it. They'll also pay you to rest farmland for 10 to 20 years at a time. They'll also pay you to do specific crop rotations. They'll insure your crops. They'll do all sorts of things, you know, so long as you follow these specific guidelines and have these planting ratios and stuff like that. They do this constantly already. Constantly. Where'd that guy go who said I was wrong all the time? I'm trying to... Why won't he tell me where I'm wrong? He's just saying I'm wrong. Is he talking to someone else? All right. By building a more sustainable food system that ensures universal access to healthy food. What is that? Overhauling transportation systems in the United States to eliminate pollution and greenhouse gas emissions from the transportation sector as much as is technologically feasible, including through investment in zero-emission vehicle infrastructure and manufacturing, clean, affordable, and accessible public transportation, and high-speed rail. Yeah. How are you going to lay the steel for the high-speed rail without that pollution output, lady? You answered? You answered? The pollution creation hasn't been more in forever. Okay. All right, pal. I'll take your word for it. On making up the net. So you're okay, are you talking about my argument on hybrid car batteries? Here we go. Here we go. Hybrid car battery pollution. Let's see. What year was this published? Ah, God, I don't. Citation and date. Oh, this was back in 2010. Back in 2010. Let's see. World Economic Forum in 2017. Batteries powering electric vehicles are forecast to make up 90% of lithium-ion battery market by 2025. They are the main reason why electric vehicles can generate more carbon emissions over their life cycle from procurement of raw materials to manufacturing, use, and recycling than petrol or diesel cars. Okay, so the World Economic Forum, at least in 2017, says that electric vehicle batteries are more polluting than petrol-based cars. Okay, you said it hasn't been that way in forever, but the World Economic Forum, which I don't think is right-leaning, disagrees with you. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. You're calling me wrong. You're not willing to pay to call me wrong. And I'm still addressing you, and here you are, not being backed up by the World Economic Forum. So, if you got something, next time, try a link, I guess. Anyway, migrating and managing the long-term adverse health, economic, and other effects of pollution and climate change, including by providing funding for community-defined projects and strategies. What are community? This is more nothing. Removing greenhouse gases from the atmosphere and reducing pollution, including by restoring natural ecosystems through proven low-tech solutions that increase soil carbon storage, such as preservation and afforestation. We do. Never mind. Restoring and protecting threatened, endangered, and fragile ecosystems through locally appropriate and science-based projects. Well, if you want locally appropriate projects and you're looking for science-based, I'm sorry. My experience with locally appropriate solutions is that they're anything but science-based. Actually, you'll find that farmers, shockingly, people who profit by living off of the land and have a vested interest in preserving their land and the nutritional sustainability of the land, and I'm talking about plant nutrition here, they are up and up. Like, I know they're just dumb farmers, right? But you want to find out where farmers are really smart? You start talking about land use, you start talking about effective soil maintenance and stuff like that. Farmers, their life depends on it. And what you'll find in DNRs, at least where I live, is that the DNR employs counterproductive strategies that are not maximizing the output. They're not maximizing reusability of soil and acreage. It's ridiculous. I work on some of these cases, guys. Like, I see what the DNR demands from people, and it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. It's not science-based. It's locally appropriate because some board sets a thing. But I'll tell you, law often lags behind reality because it takes so long to pass, longer to enforce, and even longer to figure out if they could pass it in the first place. That enhance biodiversity and support climate resiliency. WWG Marcus, don't switch to your computer, buddy. I'm not going to sit here and argue with you. DM me. We'll have a discussion about it. You can educate me at a later date. Oh my gosh. Couple chats here. All right. Christopher Polson says, my idea to fix global warming is to launch a moon-sized pie into space to block the sun. Sounds good. TR French, entropy is racist. Yes. Yes, it is. Bill Keller says, you understand they will not rebuild single-family homes. We would live in huge tenements and highly urban centers. How dare you, comrade? You go to Gulag for wrong think. Do not be telling them what we will be building. We will build what is built, and building will be complete when it is completed. And you know that, comrade. Please do not be wrong speaking administration. Administration is always right, always approves approved activities. You know this. You know this. Why would you risk talking like this? Darking D says, look at it this way. Once we hit fusion, we'll be able to reclaim carbon from the air and turn it into gasoline. Also, let's take all this money and build an orbital ring. Forget the wall. Let the Mexicans have America. Let's go to space. The orbital ring terrifies me because I've read Ilium and Olympus. Okay, next. Cleaning up existing hazardous waste and abandoned sites to promote economic development and sustainability. What are you going to do with the hazardous waste? You clean it up. All right. Identifying other emission and pollution sources and creating solutions to eliminate them. I mean, don't we have... Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but like we have the ability to recapture nuclear waste and make it viable for nuclear with modern plants. That we can actually get more energy out of the previous waste, like some of the old stuff sitting around, right? Like, is that in this plan? That seems like a good thing to do. Identifying other emission and pollution sources and creating solutions to eliminate them. So find the pollution and get rid of it. Okay. I wish we would have been doing that all along. Promoting the international exchange of technology, expertise, products, funding, and services with the aim of making the United States the international leader on climate action and to help other countries achieve a Green New Deal. But they won't, though. But they won't, though. Ocasio, Puddin', Sugar Lips, Sweet Cheeks, Pumpkin, Deary, bless your heart. We have had these benefits since industrialization. We've been living with the benefits. You don't get to say, look, I know for a century and a half, we've been enjoying the fruits of this. Let me just put you here where we are. You don't get to enjoy the fruit. I mean, you're going to eventually get the effects. Trust us. But here's a list of conditions that you have to follow, and it's going to eliminate all of those fruits that we've enjoyed. We've had the 150 years of industrialization. They haven't. They haven't. You don't get to skip to go. It doesn't work that way. People don't work that way. Even if, and I'm not saying it is, but even if it were logical, people don't work that way. Because they say, but wait a minute. You got to do it. You got to build. You got to achieve. And consider the possibility that us skipping them forward to us skips the possibility that they're going to come out with some better thing during their industrialization. You're talking about skipping a massive increase in development, in leisure, in consumerism. Like, you're skipping all of these phases that we went through to try and just bring them to now. You can't just put a healthy McDonald's on every corner and expect them to adopt it. You're moving past the fruit. You're just planting the tree. You're not even planting the tree. You're just putting the tree down and saying, don't eat. It's weird. You can't do this. Not because you can't. I mean, you can with guns. With enough guns, you can do all of it. But people aren't going to get there. They don't want to get there in the way you're proposing. A Green New Deal must be developed through transparent and inclusive consultation. Oh, I'm sure it'll be very inclusive. I'm sure it'll be very inclusive consultation. Collaboration and partnership with frontline and vulnerable communities, labor unions, worker cooperatives, civil society groups, academia, and businesses. Sure. Yeah. There you go. There you go. Rackets fan says, Nick, please check out Potholer 54's video about electronic cars and comparative carbon footprint. Are electric cars really green on YouTube? Electric, not electronic, sorry. Have to agree that nuclear is best for long-term. Thorium molten salt reactors are the way to go. Oh, SJ Jar Jar Binks says, all hail our new Führer, Comrade Cortez? Question mark, question mark. And Bill Keller says, how many will die for this new great leap forward? Always, always more than planned. Always more than planned. Oh my goodness. To achieve the Green New Deal's goals and mobilization, a Green New Deal will require the following goals and projects. Providing and leveraging in a way that ensures that the public receives appropriate ownership stakes and returns on investment. What? Oh, this sounds like my favorite thing. Public ownership of private property, comrades. We would like it if you go ahead and we will donate to you through taxes that you did not want. We will invest in business, but we will be taking toll on investment. Appropriate ownership stakes. Your appropriate ownership stakes for forcibly investing in private companies and then demanding ownership in it is 0. That's appropriate for you. And returns on investment, adequate das Kapital, including through community grants, public banks, and other public financing. The only thing I can think of worse than a private company holding my money is my government holding it. No, thank you. No, thank you. Oh my goodness. Technical expertise. Supporting policies and other forms of assistance to communities, organizations, federal, state, and local government agencies, and businesses working on the Green New Deal mobilization. This is a recipe for the Holodomor Redux. You want potato, comrade? You don't get potato. Ensuring that the federal government takes into account the complete environmental and social costs and impacts of emissions through existing laws, new policies and programs, and ensuring that frontline and vulnerable communities shall not be adversely affected. Providing resources, training, and high-quality education, including higher education, to all people of the United States, with a focus on frontline and vulnerable communities, so those communities may be full and equal participants in the Green New Deal mobilization. Only can participate with approved government education. Of course. By providing a free, high-quality, higher education to all people, we remove all people from working in productivity for an additional 4 years. Instead of just all people who want to, now you get all people. And how do you pay for it? Because imagine if all people were going to college, just how many more administrators they would need to make sure. In all of my colleging, I spoke to administrators twice, I think. One was trying to secure a basketball scholarship for my friend. The second one was me trying to get into law school. That's it. That's when I spoke to administrators. There you go. All right. Making public investments. It's just flat out government spending on private interests in the research and development of new clean and renewable energy technologies and industries. Oh man, if only we were investing. If only the government were spending on clean and renewable energy technologies. Gosh, if we just start as a government spending on clean and renewable energy technologies, if we just would start just 1 penny at a time, that would get us there. That would do it. If we just started it there, just if we could even imagine possibly investing in those things. Good Lord. Good Lord. Directing investments to spur economic development, deepen and diversify industry in local and regional economies, and build wealth and community ownership. Notice when they say build wealth, they don't actually mean building wealth. Like, building wealth is what people do. Building wealth is never what governments do. While prioritizing high-quality job creation and economic, social, and environmental benefits in frontline and vulnerable communities that may otherwise struggle with the transition away from greenhouse gas-intensive industries. So, coal miners, right? Like, that's what you're going to do? You're going to teach coal miners to code, I guess? Is that the plan? Can you teach journalists to code? By the way, you know, I'm pretty sure running Google's server farms takes up a lot of greenhouse gas. A lot of emissions, a lot of electricity related to running those things and cooling them. Oh my God. Can you imagine the amount of Freon being used, or what do they still use Freon? I don't know. Whatever coolant it is to air condition an Amazon server farm or a Twitter server farm. Like it must be a massive amount. Isn't that the stuff that kills all of the animals and the ozone? Let's see. Tuesday's Dusk says, thanks for challenging me, Rackets. I want lots of these things that they want, but it just isn't possible without further technological advances. Honestly, we should focus on science and farmland. Without food, we're all effed. F people who poop on farmers. Unless the farmer wants it. I'll add that part in. Consensual pooping, I guess, is okay. Yeah, here's the reality, though. Like, I know that the government wants to pretend that the government planning for 2100 matters, but the reality is that if we go based on history, we're going to be solving these problems as a natural course of progress because it's in our interest to do it. There's not actually like an evil cabal saying, you know what, we want more expensive, higher energy using light bulbs that cost more money and take more coal to power. Like, there's not actually a group doing that. That doesn't really exist. Like, GE sells LED bulbs too, you know? Like, that's a real thing. They're actually the one with the highest brand recognition. They do the best. So when a more power efficient light bulb comes out, it's in GE's best interest to start creating and distributing that, because people are gonna buy the GE brand before they're gonna buy anyone else. They've spent 100 years building the name. When a viable alternative to fossil fuel burning cars comes out, the distribution network is already owned by oil companies and petroleum product refining companies and distribution companies. That whole network already exists. To build it would cost $1 trillion. To utilize the existing one would cost $100 billion. What are they gonna pick? What are we gonna pick? Economic realities push us towards this constantly. History has done it over and over and over. If you just let people do it, they will. The people holding us back is always, always, always someone with a disproportionate amount of power and guns. Who is that? Who is it? Who has power and guns that cannot be opposed? Who makes writs and edicts that must be followed or else you die? It's definitely private business, right? It's definitely the people who try over and over again. If you look at the macro, look, I know there are micro examples. Yes, of course there are businesses that will try, like Facebook, to keep you in an inferior platform or an inferior product. But the overwhelming industry trend is towards making it better. Because when they make it better, things get cheaper to produce for them and they maximize profit. It's not the government making your TV better every year. And believe me, they want to do it everywhere because it makes money. When people get excited about new cars, they buy new cars. This is... Yeah, Seth, I'm not entirely certain that coal isn't gone yet due to lobbying either. But the coal industry actually would probably like to do things like carbon capture that they can then utilize. Maybe they thought they're not there yet. I'm sure with that. But yeah, of course they're lobbying. They're lobbying the government, who has the ability to enforce through gunpoint. As long as we give the government the power to enforce this stuff at gunpoint, then industry will lobby to protect itself. But the overwhelming macroeconomic trend is towards making things better. We just do, because people want better things. We want I want a furnace that heats my house cheaper than my current one. Of course I do. Of course I do. And a company wants to make it right now. I want my own backyard nuclear power plant that I bury in a cool basement that I walk down into and press beep boop boop and I increase my nuclear power output. And I call up my government approved nuclear delivery service and they bring me some 1970s waste and pop it in, and then it goes ahead and powers my house for the next day. Like, I want that to happen. Actually, I want my own self-sustaining nuclear plant that I never have to pay for electricity again. That would be great. And I am fully convinced that we will get to that. We'll get there. It's gonna happen. It's the necessary outcome. But my God, like, we keep pretending that all of this is, you know what? It's just being held back by private businesses. This is nuts. Let's see. Here we go. Darking D says, sunshades in space is a very viable solution to global warming, by the way. I don't know if I want, I am not convinced that the government should be solving, or anyone should be solving, global warming. They fail at things all the time, and they're talking about the impact of like minuscule changes in temperature on the Earth. I don't want the government trying to change the temperature. I think they'll screw it up. Actually, let me retract that. I know they'll screw it up because I've heard Chuck Schumer talk. I know the government will ruin whatever they set out to do. So no, I don't want that. I don't want sunshades in space. Cave says, this Green New Deal sounds awfully red to me. Solar panels and other green energy isn't the way forward. Molten salt nuclear power plants are. Look up transatomicpower.com. Started by a woman, so not the patriarchy or whatever you bundle of sticks hate. Thanks, buddy. Thanks, buddy. Oh, my gosh. Here we go. Siren Jag says, Trump imposed a 30% tariff on imported solar panels. U.S. manufacturers already can't meet demand. Her plan would be like a diabetic slamming down cake, just expecting the insulin to be there, but no insulin is coming. Bye-bye foot. Ouch. Landon Mack and James says, Nick, have you seen the Mecha movie 5-Star Stories? No, buddy. I have not. The Buzz CJC says, here's to drinking our own piss out of a milk jug courtesy of Occasional Cortex. No. What's his name? Kevin Costner showed me. He showed me drinking my own pee, and I don't like it. Don't like it. I'm not going to do it. SJ Jar Jar Binks says, Nick, we gave them nukes. It's already that bad. That's true. That's true. Roman Sheriff over on Streamy says, solar panels are unrecyclable and horrifically toxic and impossible to dispose of. Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, well, I'm not according to everybody. I guess I might be wrong on that. You might be wrong too. There we go. That guy from that thing says, by the way, bullet trains cost an average of $82 million per mile, depending on terrain. Want to do the math on intercontinental bullet trains? Be my guest. I don't want to do the math ever. That's why I'm a lawyer, right? Like, I don't want to do the math. This stream pains me. Stream pains me because I have to talk a little bit. I have to talk adjacent to the math, and it hurts. It hurts me. All right, here we go. Here we go. Ensuring that the Green New Deal mobilization creates high-quality union jobs. Oh, there it is, isn't it? There it is, isn't it? Right there in the union jobs. That's the only way you can have a fair job is with a union that pay prevailing wages. Because, see, this is, of course, the organized ploy. The organized ploy is that when there's a union, there is a prevailing wage. When there's not a union, there's not. When you have whatchamacallit? When you have new creation, when you have innovation, When you have those things, there isn't a prevailing wage. When there's a union, and we all know that unions would never fight against something that would lead to progress if it threatened their jobs. It's only the purpose of the union to do so. But when you have unions, you have prevailing wages. When you don't have unions, you can sell yourself as worth more than someone else because of what you can do. But the union doesn't recognize that. That's not a thing. You're just a worker. You're not you in the union. Union is not spelled with U. Union is spelled with comrade. I can't take it. I can't take. Oh, WWG Marcus won't give you money because you're a thought. I wish I was a sexier thought. I'd unleash those premium snaps. We would be set, y'all. Darking D says, Nick, we definitely need heat management solutions for Earth. The planet could support quadrillions of people. The limit, though, is heat dissipation, not space or food. This is something to think about. Maybe. I'm not there yet, buddy. And I'm not there yet doing it through government. How's that? All right. Next. Union jobs that pay prevailing wages. Hires local workers, not the best workers, just the ones that are around. Offers training and advancement opportunities. How many of my guys out there work in unions? Do they offer training and advancement opportunities? The people I know, and I'm not saying they don't, but the people I know that work in unions don't have much advancement opportunity, in all honesty. And guarantees wage and benefit parity for workers affected by the transition. The Caitlyn Jenners get wage parity. Oh my goodness. Okay, next. Guaranteeing a job with a family-sustaining wage. What is it? Because if you make the minimum wage a family-sustaining wage, then it won't sustain a family. It just won't. Things cost more. It's how the equilibrium, again, works. The Orange Cow, this is in response to the union question, I believe, says somewhat. There's a political structure, but it isn't super solid. People I know in unions do not trust unions, and the unions have not done well for them. So maybe I'm biased. Maybe I'm biased. All right. Here we go. Job with a family-sustaining wage. Adequate family and medical leave. What is adequate? It's different for each person, right? What is adequate? Paid vacations and retirement security to all people of the United States. Everybody gets a paid vacation. Hey, even e-thoughts like me get a paid vacation under Ocasio-Cortez's suckers. Suckers, I'm going to get a paid vacation for my YouTube job. Fight me. What a ridiculous notion this all is. What a ridiculous notion this is. Strengthening and protecting the right of all workers to organize, unionize, and collectively bargain free of coercion, intimidation, and harassment. I'm done. I'm done with it. I've never heard. I have not once heard of anyone organizing or unionizing free of coercion, intimidation, and harassment. Never. You can't pay me enough to believe that that occurs, because I have seen it. Of course it happens. It's human nature. Because if, let's say not even most, let's say a minority, but a strong minority, let's say a strong 20% of wheelchaired individuals want to unionize. You know what's going to happen to the 80%? They're going to get shut down. They're going to get intimidated. They're going to get harassed. It happens every single time. And when we try and make union votes transparent, when we try and make unions get a majority of workers, not a majority of voters, every single time it's voted down. Absolute nonsense. Absolute nonsense. Next, strengthening and enforcing labor workplace health. Labor, strengthening and enforcing labor. Enforce labor. What is that? What is that? Ocasio, no, we got rid of enforced labor in 1865? I thought that's the 13th Amendment. Strengthening and enforcing labor. No. This dummy is talking slave labor. Workplace health and safety, because OSHA doesn't exist. Anti-discrimination. That means all y'all slaves. And wage and hour standards across all employers, industries, and sectors. We better get my 24,000 subscriber, 24-hour stream in before that. Otherwise, I'll be breaking the wage standards. Although, in fairness, I think all of the donations that come in would have to be multiplied by 1.5. Maybe that's not a bad thing. Enacting and enforcing trade rules. Procurement standards. Like, these are enforced already. Procurement standards and border adjustments. Border adjustments. Border adjustments? Wait a minute. Wait a minute. What border adjustments? With strong labor and environmental protections. Are we going to take Mexico so they don't have to, you know, they don't have to catch up to us on industrialization? We're going to take that. We're going to take Canada. All the horses of the mounted police are dropping some beefy gas and really ruining the environment. To stop the transfer of jobs and pollution overseas. Okay. She does realize... Okay, pop quiz. When we transfer jobs overseas, do we not have other jobs? Like, do we not... Aren't we at full employment? Like, the economic definition of full employment right now? Isn't unemployment the lowest it's been... I mean, I'm going to look it up, I guess. Unemployment in US. 4%. I'm pretty sure full employment is 5% unemployment. Like, by economic standards. I'm pretty sure. Right? They fudged the employment stats. It's lowest but not best. Okay, yeah, but okay, guys, let me this is on Stream Me. Let me stop you. I'm gonna let you finish. Let me stop you. Okay, so the government fudges the unemployment stats. Fine. I 100% accept it blindly, uncritically. I'm with you. Whose metrics are we using, though? We're using the government metrics, and what metrics are we talking about with Ocasio-Cortez? So I will accept your premise 100% that they fudged the unemployment stats. Yeah, I get it about all the underemployed things, but when we ship a job overseas, we still have jobs coming up here. And when we ship, for example, manufacturing of low-cost goods to China, manufacturing of textiles to Southeast Asia, which we've done for a long time, we haven't wanted to keep those jobs here. We do for premium products. We have high-end manufacturing. We make processors. We make stuff like that. Yeah, sure. Okay. But when we're shipping off the shoes to be made by Malaysian slaves in the Nike death camps or whatever it is, so that we can buy $50, $200 Air Jordans that cost $5 to make, I get it. We ship that job over. It's not like we have a shoe job here that's missing. We make some other job. It's the customer service guy, or it's the shipping coordinator or something like that that's going on. That's my point in all this. I'm not necessarily suggesting There's just not a linear trade-off. So, anyway. And I'm not saying that we don't want to have jobs here. Obviously we do. But this idea that like when a job goes overseas, well, it would have stayed here. No, not necessarily. Not necessarily at all. But whatever. We'll go with it. I definitely want to ship pollution overseas though. I don't want the pollution to stay here. To grow domestic manufacturing in the United States. Yeah, I'm for that. Who's not for that? Ensuring that public lands, waters, and oceans are protected and that eminent domain is not abused. Really? How are you going to build those trains, sweetie? How are we going to build the trains? Yeah, I'm not saying... Unstream me. What's the name? Crosachiel says, Nick, we need low IQ jobs here. Yeah, I 100% agree. I 100% agree. But I'm saying the way we work with economics is that when we ship jobs overseas, it's not like that job is like there's a limited number of jobs. We find other things for people to do. Even in the low IQ sector, if you want to look at it that way. We absolutely will keep finding ways for people to work. If nothing else, we'll all be rolling so much in raining cocaine and Lamborghinis that we'll need the low IQ people to clean the toilets in our Lamborghinis, right? It's just going to happen. It's just going to happen. Obtaining the free, prior, and informed consent of Indigenous people for all decisions that affect Indigenous people and their traditional territories. Really? Okay. That's all of them. That's all of the decisions. You buying a Coke affects an Indigenous person and their traditional territories. Honoring all treaties and agreements with Indigenous people. But is that in the best interest of the Indigenous people? The treaties are what put them on reservations. You could make a strong argument that many of them would do better with a generation or two of assimilation. I don't know. I don't know if that's the case. I could make that argument really easily. And protecting and enforcing the sovereignty and land rights of Indigenous people. Well, there you go. So you're not for any sort of assimilation or participation in the United States market. I got it. Ensuring a commercial environment where every business person is free from unfair competition and domination by domestic or international monopolies. How do you do that? How do you do that? Do you start with Visa and MasterCard? You gonna fix them first? Providing all people of the United States with 1, high quality health care. Affordable, safe, and adequate housing. Just give them houses. Fine. Safe housing. Gotta have safe housing. Not just affordable. It's gotta be safe. Which means you can't give them a high-rise, or no, not a high-rise. You can't give them a low-rise apartment in Chicago on the south side. Can't do it. Not safe. Get shot. And adequate housing. What does adequate even mean? What does adequate mean? Like, my standard of adequate is very different than yours, Ocasio. You grew up in New York. I grew up in the suburbs of the Twin Cities. And then, and now I live in my kids grew up in a rural community with 4 siblings. So there's 5 kids, 4 siblings, right? Do you think that a single person living in New York and my family of 7 have the same definition of adequate? Absolutely not. Economic security. Take away all risk. And access to clean water, clean air, healthy and affordable food, and nature. There you go. How are we going to pay for it? No one knows. No one knows how any of this is going to get paid for. It can't be. It can't be paid for. It costs more than the GDP of the country to pay for this stuff. Next. Yorgamund07 says, I'll chuckle about the costs and scope of the other stuff, but if AOC forces me to deal with unions on a daily basis, I'm kicking off 1776 again. Yeah, buddy. Phil Farkale says, Privet Nick, here is money for potato. Privet Nick, here is money for potato tovarsage. Tovarish. Thanks, comrade. Much appreciated. Iron Mater says, how I went from showing feet to litigating RBG's partially reanimated corpse. A Nick Rekieta story. Darking D says, I remain unconvinced that AOC isn't controlled opposition. Andrew War Snowbound says, privatize road construction. Well, you can't have roads without a government. It's not possible. It's never happened in history. Darking D says, no, well, Nick is wrong about us finding jobs for low IQ people. We're going to automate low IQ individuals out of work very soon, but we'll also be able to genetically engineer people to have higher IQs too, so probably not too much of a problem. Well, there you go. There you go. What am I drinking today? That's a good question to hint of shrimp. I'm drinking Basil Hayden's rye whiskey. It was a gift from a viewer by the name of Benjamin. I won't say his last name. That's rude. Thank you, Benjamin. I very much appreciated it. All right, guys. That is 2 hours now of news. I didn't get to the abortion stuff. Do I want to talk about the abortion stuff? Hold on. I'll address it briefly. All right. We've got the New York Times. Don't hate me, hate the New York Times. Let me zoom in on it for you here. Supreme Court blocks Louisiana abortion law. All right. Here we go. Here we go. The Supreme Court on Thursday blocked a Louisiana law that its opponents say could have left the state with only one doctor in a single clinic authorized to provide abortions. So, I say again, we've got Hawaii. Like, Hawaii is talking about making the legal age to purchase cigarettes 100 years. I don't smoke. Never have. Hate it. Hate the smell of it. Hate walking through a cloud of smoke. Hate walking into a restaurant with a fresh cloud of tobacco. Hate the idea that my kids breathe it in when I walk into a building. Hate it. Hate every single thing about tobacco smoke, okay? The 100-year tobacco purchase limit is BS. It's absolute garbage. Why are you stopping people from doing what they want to do? It doesn't... I mean, I don't even agree anymore. Like, when I was a kid and they were implementing the bans on smoking indoors, I was foolish. I agreed. I was like, yeah, I don't like the smell of cigarette smoke when I'm at Arby's or whatever. I don't like it. I don't. I really don't. I don't like it. But it's the wrong way to do it. Banning it, banning restaurants and bars from having it is the wrong way to do it. The right way was for us to say, no, let's make some restaurants and bars that don't have smoking or that have isolated smoking sections and do it that way. That was the way. We didn't do it. I was dumb as a kid. I didn't understand. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. The only time you'll find me apologizing. I hate to this day smoking, but Who am I to trample on the rights of someone else to do it? We have ways to do this privately, okay? But here's the real problem. If they pass legislation, they've done this. Here, we'll do it this way. They have passed legislation in towns that make it so that you cannot open a strip club, which is protected, free, artistic expression. Cannot open a strip club in a town because they'll say it can't be within 18 blocks of a school or a daycare or this and that, and it's all calculated to mean that it within the city limits it cannot happen. So municipality will pass time, place, and manner restrictions on a strip club and get it out. That is 100% okay with these people. Now, protected free expression, protected free speech is an enumerated right. It's the First Amendment, the very first. Abortion is a fiction created out of a Ninth Amendment right for Listen to how specific the right to abortion is. It's freaking disgusting. The only person who has the Ninth Amendment right of privacy created in Roe versus Wade. I've said this before, but here it is. Just so you can picture it in your mind, is a pregnant woman who wants to kill her baby. That's it. That's it. That's it. That's it. No one else on earth has the Ninth Amendment right to privacy and medical care that a pregnant woman who wants to kill her baby does. She is the only one. A man who is married to a woman who wants to kill a baby, yet no privacy right in medical choices for him. No, not a chance does he have that. A dad who, or a prospective dad who's not married to a woman who doesn't want to pay child support for his entire life, yet no privacy right for you, friend. No privacy right for them. A woman who doesn't want to kill her baby, you try and get a privacy right out of a woman who doesn't want to kill her baby. Let's say she does meth. She have a privacy right in that decision? Won't work. Won't work. She's endangering that unborn fetus. So only women who want to kill their unborn babies, pregnant women, that's it. That's the entirety of the right. It is insane that that is the right we're protecting. That fiction created in Roe versus Wade to apply to a temporary, narrow category of people is protected more than your First Amendment rights. It's protected more than your Second Amendment rights. You think there are appropriate time, place, and manner restrictions able to be placed on abortions? No, they're not. It's right here. You can't do it. You can't say that you have to have admitting practices in case the mom is dying. We want a hospital available. Nope. Can't do it. Cannot. How dare you restrict our fictional right that was created by a 5-4 decision by a woman who was duped, and later regretted everything, and she had the baby. And she had the baby. She went on with her life after having the baby, becoming an ardent pro-life advocate. That's the poster child for these disgusting monsters who propagate the idea that we should kill babies in the womb on a fictional right, but are unwilling to protect any other right in the same way. It's insane. It's insane. It's insane. I've been talking about the First Amendment. Try the Second. Try the Second. Dear Lord. Dear Lord. So anyway, the vote was 5-4 with Chief Cuck in Chief John Roberts Jr. and the corpse of Ruth Ginsburg voting, joining in the court's 4-member liberal wing to form a majority. The coalition underscored the pivotal position the Chief Justice has assumed after the departure last year of Justice Anthony M. Kennedy, who used to hold the crucial vote in many closely divided cases. Only if you weren't paying attention to Roberts do you believe that, including ones concerning abortion. The court's brief order gave no reasons, and its action, a temporary stay, did not end the case. Right. They just provided an injunction on the imposition of the law, so we can't gather data. We can't figure out how many clinics would close. We can't figure out the actual impact on abortions in Louisiana. We can't get anything out of it. Of course not. Of course not. How dare you want the data? How dare you want the data? Anyway, this is the ruling. It's a temporary stay. So they wanted to put a stay on the imposition of the law. The law would require any abortion clinic to have admitting privileges at a hospital within 30 miles, I believe. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure that's what it was. A similar bill was passed in Texas. A similar bill was passed in Texas and struck down by the Supreme Court. Because listen to this quote. Here's some good writing from the New York Times. There was good evidence, he added, that the requirement in Texas caused the number of abortion clinics in Texas to drop from 20 to 40. Good job, Breyer or the New York Times. Whether it's senile Breyer who needs to go away because Stephen Breyer should get off the court. That guy's a whopping bowl of good opinions. He needs to get out. Senile Breyer or some idiot at the New York Times decided that 40 was less than 20. Good job. Good job. Anyway. I can't deal with this. Again, like, here's the bad thing. Like, I am vehemently opposed to abortion. Absolutely 100% opposed to it. I get the legal argument, and I'm not even arguing. I'm not even going to make the argument that the Supreme Court needs to oppose abortion. Not going to do it. It's not necessary. What is necessary is to highlight the fact that enumerated rights like speech and guns can be restricted all day long. And those rights apply to literally every person in the country. But a right only held by a tiny temporary minority cannot be restricted in any way. The states have no autonomy over abortion restrictions. They can't listen to what we're doing. They can't even say, we want them to be able to get the mom to a clinic if she's dying on the table. We can't even do that. Think of the health regulation that you deal with. Guys, they took away your romaine lettuce because someone in California got sick. They took away all of the romaine lettuce in the entire country for weeks because someone in California got sick. But they can't make an abortion clinic be somewhere near a hospital in case a woman is dying. What are we doing? What is this? This is the most backwards thinking I can possibly imagine. All right. It was poop lettuce. It was poop lettuce. Oh, I don't know. I can't even take it. The cognitive dissonance that's going on. We can't come up with anything anymore. We're just making it all. Laptical 99. The funny thing is, if you grew your own lettuce and tried to sell it to your neighbor, you'd be a criminal. Let me, Rick Nikita says, where the hell do you go where you can smoke inside? Well, the Tennessee airport, the Nashville airport has a smoke room you can pay $6 to get into. That one bar, the Urban Bar in Tennessee that served a minor alcohol while we were there. The Urban Bar that commit what I have to only imagine is a felony in serving without even checking the ID of someone under the age of 21. The Urban Bar that commit a felony in Tennessee, you can smoke in there. That's fine. Go ahead. James Pizzone says, Pennsylvania Supreme Court ruled mom's drug use during pregnancy isn't child abuse. Ruling was in December of 18. Thoughts on this? What was the drug? I guess. I don't know. Man. Tanu Bojangles sent a super chat, but no text was entered. Did I just snitch on the Urban Bar? No, the Urban Bar, they done played themselves. Is it not a felony? Is it a misdemeanor? I don't know. I didn't look up the Tennessee law. It's a bad thing to do, though. All I know is that if I gave someone under the age of 21 liquor in Minnesota, that would be a felony. I know that. All right. Okay, let's get rid of this. Guys, let's get to that bedtime story. I hope you're ready for that bedtime story. I got a good one for you. Whoops. Not what I want. Oh, good. There's nothing terrible in that. Let's see. Here, hold on. Oh, Tanu Bojangles sent a follow-up message. Too drunk to send a message. Hey, buddy, I know that feel. I got a counterpoint for you, though. Renting out or constructing a building next to a hospital for an abortion clinic is different than telling people not to sell or ship a certain thing. I mean, it's not next to a hospital, though. It's within 30 miles. And the time, place, and manner restrictions that keep adult bookstores or strip clubs out is literally, you can't do this within this many miles of something else. It's the exact same law. It's just reversed. One is you must do it within this many miles, and the other is you can't do it within this many miles. That's the point. Or have hospital faculty on staff. That's the other option. Landon Mack and James says, I don't know the journey, Nick, but abortion to me seems necessary for most people. To me, when it comes to mishaps, I just think it could ruin your life. Well, Landon, here's the best part. You don't get a choice in it. You don't get a choice in that. You don't get a choice in that abortion. It's entirely up to the mom. She has 100% of the power in that. Now, you can and will be held to owe all of the child support under the statute, but you will not. Where is? Hold on, I have to find this case, guys. Where did I put it? Where did I put it? Is it here? I'm going to find it real quick. If not, I can pull it up. Okay. Let me just pull this up. Here we go. It's now this is a case. Let me No, not what I wanted. Just a second. Here's what I want. Here's a full opinion. Here we go. Here we go. Reaching Tonka levels of dead air here. All right. I'll straighten it out in just a second here. Okay. Okay. This is a case. This is a bedtime story. I'm not going to read the full case to you. I'm going to read to you the facts section of the case. I will summarize the opinion of the court. This was written by Justice Scalia. This is a case called the Town of Castle Rock, Colorado versus Jessica Gonzalez. All right. This is a Supreme Court case decided in 2005. And if you caught my announcement, this is about why we don't rely on the police. Why we don't rely on the police to protect us. Okay? Here we go. Here we go. We decide in this case whether an individual who has obtained a state law restraining order has a constitutionally protected property interest in having the police enforce the restraining order when they have probable cause to believe it has been violated. Let me lay that out for you. Let me lay that out for you. When you get a restraining order, do you have a right to have the police who enforce the restraining order actually enforce it when they have probable cause to believe it was violated? That's what it says. That's what it means. Here we go. The horrible facts of this case are contained in the complaint that the respondent, Jessica Gonzalez, filed in federal district court. Because the case comes to us on appeal from a dismissal of the complaint, we assume its allegations are true. Respondent alleges that petitioner, the town of Castle Rock, Colorado, violated the due process clause of the 14th Amendment to the United States Constitution when its police officers, acting pursuant to official policy or custom, failed to respond properly to her repeated reports that her estranged husband was violating the terms of a restraining order. The restraining order had been issued by a state trial court several weeks earlier in conjunction with respondent's divorce proceedings. The original form order issued on May 21st, 1999, and served on respondent's husband on June 4th, 1999, commanded him not to, quote, molest or disturb the peace of respondent or of any child, and to remain at least 100 yards from the family home at all times. The bottom of the pre-printed form noted that the reverse side contained, quote, in caps, important notices for restrained parties and law enforcement officials. That's the emphasis is deleted from this. The pre-printed text on the back of the form included the following warning. A knowing violation of a restraining order is a crime. A violation will also constitute contempt of court. You may be arrested without notice if a law enforcement officer has probable cause to believe that you have knowingly violated this order. The pre-printed text on the back of the form also included a notice to law enforcement officials, which read in part, quote, you shall use every reasonable means to enforce this restraining order. You shall arrest, or if an arrest would be impractical under the circumstances, seek a warrant for the arrest of the restrained person when you have information amounting to probable cause that the restrained person has violated or attempted to violate any provision of this order, and the restrained person has been properly served with a copy of this order or has received actual notice of the existence of this order. On June 4th, 1999, the state trial court modified the terms of the restraining order and made it permanent. The modified order gave respondent's husband the right to spend time with his 3 daughters, ages 10, 9, and 7, on alternate weekends for 2 weeks during the summer, and, quote, upon reasonable notice for a midweek dinner visit, quote, arranged by the parties. The modified order also allowed him to visit the home to collect the children for such parenting time. According to the complaint, at about 5 or 5:30 p.m. on Tuesday, June 22nd, 1999, respondent's husband took the 3 daughters while they were playing outside the family home. No advance arrangements had been made for him to see the daughters that evening. When respondent noticed the children were missing, she suspected her husband had taken them. At about 7:30 p.m., she called the Castle Rock Police Department, which dispatched 2 officers. The complaint continues, quote, when the officers arrived, she showed them a copy of the temporary restraining order and requested that it be enforced and the 3 children be returned to her immediately. The officers stated that there was nothing they could do about the temporary restraining order and suggested that the respondent call the police department again if the 3 children did not return home by 10 p.m. At approximately 8:30 p.m., respondent talked to her husband on his cellular telephone. He told her, quote, he had the 3 children at an amusement park in Denver. She called the police again and asked them to, quote, have someone check for her husband or his vehicle at the amusement park and, quote, put out an all-points bulletin for her husband. But the officer with whom she spoke, quote, refused to do so, again telling her to wait until 10 p.m. and see if her husband returned the girls. Just so you know, him even showing up violated the restraining order at 5:30 p.m. At approximately 10:10 p.m., respondent called the police and said her children were still missing, but she was now told to wait until midnight. She called at midnight and told the dispatcher her children were still missing. She went to her husband's apartment and, finding nobody there, called the police at 12:10 a.m. She was told to wait for an officer to arrive. When no one came, she went to the police station at 12:50 a.m. and submitted an incident report. The officer who took the report, quote, made no reasonable effort to TRO or locate the 3 children. Instead, he went to dinner. At approximately 3:20 a.m., respondent's husband arrived at the police station and opened fire with a semi-automatic handgun he had purchased earlier that evening. Police shot back, killing him. Inside the cab of his pickup truck, they found the bodies of all 3 daughters, whom he had already murdered. That's the story. That's the story. That's the people that we have been told our entire lives, to put your trust in them protecting you. Trust the legal process. Don't buy a gun. Don't save yourself. Don't take justice into your own hands. Trust the police. Call the police. Get a restraining order. They'll protect you. They will save you. They'll save your children. If we just let police save our children when our schools are getting shot up. I mean, I hate to do this. Let's go on. That's the story. On the basis of the foregoing factual allegations, respondent brought an action claiming that the town violated the due process clause because its police department had, quote, an official policy or custom of failing to respond properly to complaints of restraining order violations, and, quote, tolerated the non-enforcement of restraining orders by its police officers. The complaint also alleged that the town's actions were, quote, were taken either willfully, recklessly, or with such gross negligence as to indicate wanton disregard and deliberate indifference to respondents' civil rights. Before answering the complaint, the defendants filed a motion to dismiss under Federal Rules of Civil Procedure 12b-6. District Court granted the motion, concluding that whether construed as making a substantive due process or procedural due process claim, respondent's complaint failed to state a claim upon which relief could be granted. The panel of the Court of Appeals affirmed the rejection of a substantive due process claim, but found that respondent had alleged a cognizable procedural due process claim. On rehearing en banc, a divided court reached the same disposition, concluding that the respondent had, quote, a protected property interest in the enforcement of the terms of her restraining order, and that the town had deprived her of due process because the police never heard nor seriously entertained her request to enforce and protect her interests in the restraining order. I don't want to read all of this because it gets really wordy, gets very technical, but let's just go to the opinion, right? We conclude, therefore, that respondent did not, for purposes of the due process clause, have a property interest in police enforcement of the restraining order against her husband. It is accordingly unnecessary to address the Court of Appeals' determination that the town's customer policy prevented the police from giving her due process when they deprived her of that alleged interest. In light of today's decision and that in DeShaney, the benefit that a third party may receive from having someone else arrested for a crime generally does not trigger protections under the due process clause, neither in its procedural nor its substantive manifestations. This result reflects our continuing reluctance to treat the 14th Amendment as a font of tort law. But it does not mean states are powerless to provide victims with personally enforceable remedies. Although the framers of the 14th Amendment and the Civil Rights Act of 1871 did not create a system by which police departments are generally held financially accountable for crimes that better policing might have prevented, people of Colorado are free to craft such a system under state law. So there you go. You don't have a right to your restraining order, even if it says... Now, listen to what Scalia said. Listen to what he said. The people of Colorado are free to craft such a system under state law. They did. They did. It's on the restraining order. The police shall enforce the law. They shall, must. It is compelling. They must enforce the restraining order by arrest or any other means necessary, arrest or arrest warrant. They shall do it. The people of Colorado did it. Those restraining orders are not drafted in a vacuum. They're drafted by lawmakers. It's statutory language. They did it. Scalia, you cuck. They did it. They did create that right. And when it came down to enforce it, the state of Colorado, the appeals court of the state of Colorado said the lady with the dead kids was right. And then the police appealed it. And the Supreme Court said no. No. Cops don't need to do it. It's a disgusting decision. And they rely on it. They rely on this decision You're getting stabbed and an officer doesn't want to get stabbed? I don't have to protect you. School shooting and an officer stands outside, doesn't go in. His job, he's literally trained to go in and confront the school shooter. That's his job. That's his 6-figure income's job. Doesn't have to do it. Doesn't have to do it. What do? Someone's beating your kid? I ran into this. Not my kid. One of my cases I worked on. Someone's beating your kid. I helped a kid get a restraining order against his dad. His kid's dad was beating him from the time he was 8 months old. When I took the case, he was 8 years old. Okay? When I say he was beating him, it was documented by the mom, by the grandparents, by the school, by the doctor. State didn't intervene. Kid was beaten by his dad for 7 straight years. Every single time he went to his dad's house, he came home with a visible injury. A bruise, a puncture, a cut, a black eye. State doesn't have to intervene. Where's that kid's justice? 7 years. Detached ear from the dad pulling on the ear and detaching the connective tissue from the ear to the skull. 7 years. State doesn't have to do anything. You try and not protect a kid for 7 years. It's under your care and custody. See how long you last. Don't rely on other people, y'all. Don't rely on other people. Don't rely on the government. The government doesn't protect you. The government protects itself. I've got a couple super chats to read, and then I'm gonna wrap it up. All right. Where are we? Ryan English says, abortion is murder and anyone involved in one will someday answer to a just and living God. Darking D says, R.E., it could ruin the mother's life. If a woman has no responsibility to her child, who does she have a responsibility to? This argument is Rand's fever dream. Objectivism is untenable for this exact reason. Even wolves understand duty outside themselves. Universal Impurity says, but Nick, maybe the officer was really hungry. Yeah, he really couldn't even get on the radio and just say, listen, y'all, we've got reports that a person violating a restraining order and kidnapping 3 young girls is at this amusement park. Can we just run an officer through the parking lot? Here's the license plate, make, and model. Then gone to lunch. He decided not to. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Sorry to bring it down. Sorry to bring it down. I want you guys to know. I want you guys to know that when police don't serve and protect, they hide behind a bad Supreme Court decision from 2005. Anyway. All right, guys. I'm going to go eat some ice cream. I'm going to start reading a book. I hate ending on such a down note. I hate ending on such a down note. If you're into 40K, read Lords of Silence. Great book. Very entertaining. I just finished. I'm about to read The Majos, which is the 4th Eisenhorn book. I'm very excited to start it. It is a thick THICC book, and I'm very, very happy to. Next week, I will be hopefully having some very, very interesting guests on. Stay tuned. We've got some anime streams coming up. We've got a Chad Dad stream that's got to happen soon. All of that and more Thank you for watching. If you're not subscribed to me on YouTube, please do so. Please also subscribe to me on StreamMe if that is your poison of choice. I appreciate all of it. Let me make sure there were no chats from StreamMe on the donation thing. I don't know how to see those in real time, so I have to make sure. I don't see any that I've missed. So thank you all for watching, participating, enjoying with me. No, I'm not eating Breyer's ice cream. How dare you? Senpai that friend zones you. I think I don't know if I read the whole Night Lord's Omnibus. I was reading those books as they came out. I have them somewhere. Oh, wait. Here's Lord of the Night. I think I only read this one, but I've got it. I might have it up there. I don't know. I don't think I've read the rest of them. Lord of the Night was good, though. Can I make fun of a politician to bring up the mood? Grade AOC out of 10? Well, she's a 0 out of 10 for a congresswoman. Jeez. It's okay. So it's a shame when the best thing she's done with her entire congressional career is someone else unearthed a video of her dancing in high school, and she was attractive in that video. That's the best thing she's done in her entire career so far, and not just as a congresswoman. That's it. Good job, really bringing women into the 20th century, AOC. What a disaster of a human. Can we make fun of Hank Johnson for a bit? Hank Johnson makes fun of himself every time he talks. Sweet and sour pork. I'm going to read The Majos by Eisenhorn. Tess, I'm not a good rater out of 10 for women because I only have eyes for Lady Rackets. But if the chat would like to rate AOC, the chat can go ahead and drop ratings for AOC out of 10. That might be a fun way to end the stream. We'll see. We'll see how she does. She's like a bizarro Trump. It's kind of funny. You're going to give her a 10 out of 10? She's not a 10. I mean, Tess, come on. She's not a 10. You can love her all you want. She's not a 10, though. Streamy knows what's up. They've got 2s, 3s, 1s, 5, 2, 4. Retarded out of 10. Donkey out of 10. And horse out of 10. That's good. I think Streamy doesn't have as long of a delay as YouTube. That's what's going on. I literally am not attracted to Ocasio-Cortez. No, like unironically, flat answer. It's not my type. Not my type. I also wouldn't be able to talk to her without eye rolling. Like, how could I do that? That's not okay. All right, guys. Thanks so much for watching. I appreciate it. I will see you next week. Stay tuned. Stay tuned to me on Twitter just in case. If things fall into a place, there may be some sort of emergency stream situation this weekend. I'm working on what would be a huge guest. Well, at least to me. I'm working on it. I don't know, though. My plan is not to have stream videos this weekend unless I get a specific person. I do have some non-stream videos to release. I released a quartering one yesterday. So go and check that out if you're following the Quarter Pounded case. I've got one on diversity in comics coming out, and I've got one, a lawsuit summary that's going to come out because of that Vice article. People have been asking a little bit about it. And I've got some summaries of some other suits. As soon as Tekashi 6ix9ine is sentenced, I'll have an update on his case and Tekashi Snitch 9, as he's being called. So those short videos are coming. If you want short videos, like DM me on Twitter if you think the case is interesting. Also, I'm trying to monitor this this kid who, not Destiny, but some other person named Destiny. So there, another woman named Destiny is threatening to sue some 15-year-old YouTuber for something. And is it that Destiny or Justice Destiny? I can't remember the name. But apparently has a bunch of pedo-related content. I don't know what's up with that. But yeah. Also, if Ginsburg happens to die, we'll do a Ginsburg funeral live stream soon. So, Just Destiny is the YouTuber. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Yeah, I know she's already dead. But when they admit that she dies and we get a funeral, there you go. Yeah, so I'm following the Just Destiny situation. If I have any updates on it, I'll go ahead and put out something. All right, guys. The huge guest is me as I educate Nick on law and science. You just said that you think Ocasio-Cortez is an amazing political force, so we'll see. We'll see, buddy. All right, guys. I'll talk to y'all later. Y'all have a good night. Peace.